I thought there were some very worthy policy pieces laid out, especially if you look at the details here. I like the idea of an infrastructure bank. I think that gets us into spending where the benefits exceed the costs, where politics is taken out of the decision-making process, and where you're leveraging private sector efforts. So this is a new way to do infrastructure spending in this country, and I think it's a great idea. There's also a proposal in the extension of unemployment insurance to give states much more flexibility, including the flexibility to use the money for what's called work sharing, instead of laying people off, putting people on shorter hours and making up the difference with unemployment insurance. There's the idea that you can use this for so-called wage insurance if you have a worker that's been laid off and they find a new job at a lower wage, so the government makes up part of the difference. There's some potential to use this money to start a new business and to use the money for the kind of retraining and reskilling that Adam was talking about. So those are some of my policy thoughts. Let me say a few words about the politics of this. I think it's absolutely right, both substantively and politically at this point, to pivot to jobs. I don't want to go quite as far as Doug did in saying that the sovereign debt crisis issue or the threat of it is even more important than getting people back to work at this point. If we have a lost decade similar to what the Japanese had, I don't know how we're ever going to solve our fiscal issues. I think that he put the ball in the other guy's court. He said to the Congress over and over again, enact this now. He made it very clear what he wanted to enact. He was very specific. It's up to them now to act, and he made it clear that he can't do that unilaterally. I think because his proposals were on the whole quite moderate, he tried to incorporate in them a lot of ideas that were initially Republican ideas. He, in being moderate, is increasingly pushing Republicans to the right. And if you watched the Republican debate night before last, you saw how far they're going in terms of moving right. The package includes more taxes than spending and says to those who don't want to extend the payroll tax that was enacted last year, unless it's paid for contemporaneously, he says to them, how come you were in favor of extending tax cuts for the wealthy, but you're not in favor of extending tax cuts for the middle class? So he really, I think, has challenged the opposition party there.